songs remember all. Hear the shepherd's song, the herald summons, your king returns. Words written on the pages echo through the ages. Shema Yisra'el, you must hear Yahowah's words so clear. In this night and in the day, echoes never fade away. David's songs forever sing. Mashiach's gift to you we bring. Lift the shofar to the sky. Yahowah is El Shaddai. Shema Yisra'el, hear the sound, a message for you coming down. Daughters of Zion, lift your voice. The time has come to make your choice. Shema Yisra'el, you must hear Yahowah's words so clear. In this night and in the day, echoes never fade away. Shema Yisrael, you must hear ancient words so clear. In this night and in the day, echoes never fade away.
Good evening. Happy Shabat and happy Yom Kippurim to one and all. I understand that in Yisra'el, the rabbis have corrupted their calendar to the point that they think that we're still a month away from Kippurim. Of course, they will tell Yisrael that the high holy days begin with Rosh Hashanah, which is the Babylonian New Year, as opposed to Towrah. And then they will tell you that the proper way to celebrate Kippurim is to twirl a chicken over your head and afflict yourself, because what God wouldn't want his subjects to be afflicting themselves. But the truth is, there are no such thing as high holy days. Holy in Hebrew is choli. It speaks of being diseased. Towrah is an exceedingly important day on Yisrael's calendar. It's the last gleaning of Yisrael before the Messiah's return with Yahowah on Yom Kippurim. And Yom Kippurim is plural of kafar, which speaks of reconciliation. So it is the day of reconciliations because there's two reconciliations occurring on this day. This is all explained beautifully by the prophet Yirmiyah in the 31st chapter, where he explains that the Bereth covenant will be reaffirmed and reestablished between Yisra'el and Yehudim. That will occur on this day. And so the two reunions are between the fractured nature of Yisrael, particularly as she sits today, torn apart by religion and politics, and the relationship of God's people with Yahowah. This is the day that we celebrate. This is the day that Dode returns. His first order of business on this day will be to do something, of course, that the rabbis again say can't be done. But he's done it before, and he will do it again, which is he's going to put on the garb of the high priest. And he's going to anoint the Kapporeth, the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant. Because in this way, as he anoints it with the blood of just a smattering of the bull and of the goat, he will have honored the Torah's procedure for reconciling a relationship with wayward people, upon which time he is going to remove all traces of religious and political threats from around God's people, starting with Yisra'el. At the same time, Yahowah, who just happens to be God, will transform the earth back into the conditions experienced in Eden. We know all of this because the prophets explained it to us, and we have read them, and we are sharing it with you. This is the nature of Kippurim. 5 days after Kippurim is Sukkah. As a matter of fact, 10 years to the day that Muslims invaded Yisra'el, slaughtering Jews, we will celebrate the 1,000-year beginning of the long Shabat of Sukkah, as the 7th of October, 2033, is the first day of forever. This is what we look forward to. That day is exactly 10 years away. It will be on Kippurim, 9 years from now. I think I misspoke there. It'll be exactly 9 years from now that we will be celebrating Kippurim. It's 10 years from the October 7th attacks by Muslims, and just 9 years from this day, when we will be camping out with our Heavenly Father, but not all of us, only those who have accepted the conditions of the covenant, who have embraced Yahowah as God, who know that Dod, the Messiah and Son of God, fulfilled the Moed Mikre, and that he is the one that is coming back with God to reign as king beginning on Kippurim. This evening, to celebrate Kippurim, we're going to celebrate it with a song. This song is based upon a poem that I wrote yesterday. It's embarrassing to tell you, but it's the first poem I have written since I was 7 years old. I wrote a poem that I got a C and as a 7-year-old, because I was insistent that the word towards was appropriate to use in this poem, and my teacher didn't want me to use it. Towards, she said, was appropriate, not towards. My editors would agree, of course, with my English teacher, but I'm fairly insistent on saying things the way that I think they need to be said. All of Yahowah's prophets were that way. Although I'm not a prophet, I certainly speak for them. Yes, that poem, when I was 7 years old, began, "Who are you sitting there? What goes through your troubled mind? Thoughts of hatred or of kind?" The song that we're going to share with you today is enormously more important than that. It is, I think, collaboratively, it's the finest thing we have done as a family. Well, I wrote the lyrics, Dee produced the musical score, staying up all night to do so, because this was not easy, and that there are a lot of words. We did not shortchange the message. God is speaking to his people, and he wants them to know him and what he had to say to them. And so it is a long song, and those are much more difficult to write. And then my wife, Leah, is the one who composed the video for this song with the images. And for those who have not done so, I would encourage you to go to YouTube. Yahowah Radio would be a good place to start. I think the links have already been posted in the chat room. There's also Yahowah on Rumble. And play the song so that you can see the lyrics and the video as you play it. This song was inspired by the first 600 pages of Twistianity 5. Twistianity now has a 5th volume. Will be finished writing it sometime late on Sunday. But as I approach page 600 of it, I was inspired to write a song. So this evening, I want you to get a cup of coffee. We're going to go through all 600 pages of Twistianity 5. So that I'll spare you the whole thing. And although I would encourage people to read it, because it is really a marvelous presentation of a single subject. And that is, after completely destroying the myth of Christianity and of Paul and of Peter, of Luke, and the Christian New Testament, in the first 4 volumes of Twistianity, I decided that I would start the 5th volume by systematically stating the case for Dowd. And so we go through the first 8 Mizmor, and then the 103rd, and then the 22nd, 23rd, 88th, 89th Mizmor. We go through 2 Samuel 7, which I think is one of the most powerful prophecies in the world. Then we transition into Isaiah, Yasha'yah 9. Then 40, about the voice, and then 53. And this song was inspired as I was sharing the message of Yasha'yah 53 after the build-up of those first 600 pages. So we're going to begin by sharing a little bit of Yasha'yah 53. Then I'm going to do my best to read my poem, my first poem since I was 7 years old. And then we're going to play the song that the team composed to share this message with you. As we are aware, Yasha'yah 53 begins by directing our attention to the identity of the Yisra'el. God's introduction also reveals that Yahowah, as a series of books, would be noted for its devotion to properly translating, assessing, and explaining Isaiah's prophecies. We understand this connection because there is nowhere else where the Yisra'el are openly discussed. Nowhere else in all of human history.
Amazing.
Much less identified and known. There are 3 Yisra'el. The first told us what we needed to know. His name is Moshe. He is the one that presented the Towrah of Yahowah. And he's the one that explained the Torah. He's the first to acknowledge that there would be 3 Yisra'el. And he is the one who told us what each of the 7 Moed Mikre represent, so that we would understand the benefits when they were fulfilled. The most important of the Yisra'el is Dowd. In his case, every aspect of this term applies, including the Torah's definition of Yisra'el, which is sacrificial lamb. Dowd honored the Torah promises. He is the one who lived the words that Moshe shared. But since there isn't one amongst a million Yehud who knows what Dowd did as the Yisra'el, the Passover lamb, in year 4,000 Yah, or that his soul served to fulfill matzah, and then Kuram, becoming Yahweh's Bakur, firstborn son, 3 days in succession in the Yobel of 4,000 Yah, the 80th Yobel year since our release from the garden. This is the timing that is presented. However, since there are so few people worldwide who know this, and I would say that if you go back 2 or 3 years, there were exactly 0 people who know this. As a matter of fact, if you go back 2,500 years, there's not a single person who recognized that Dowd was not only the Messiah and the Son of God and the returning King, but that he filled the shoes of the Pesach El, that he was the Zerah, the Passover lamb, and that he fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim in 33 CE. And so when we determined that based upon reading what the prophets had to say, it changed everything. At that point, you know that the Christian counterfeit known as Jesus never existed. You know that Rabbi Akiva made a horrendous mistake by foisting a false Messiah of his own on Yisra'el, leading to the diaspora, which ultimately led to the Holocaust. Dowd is all of these things. But the world would not know this had we not discovered it and made it central to our message on behalf of Yisra'el. And therefore, there is a third Zerah. At this time, as important as the other two, although overall he's not fit to carry the sandals of the first two. But at this very moment, it's his job that matters the most. Because unless people start to acknowledge what Dowd has done, his sacrifice is for naught. And imagine the pain of father and son to have endured the torment of crucifixion as the Passover lamb, to have endured a trip to Sheol, hell, to dispose of our guilt, to be ignored, to be rejected, to be discounted, to be replaced by a couple of crude counterfeits. The solution to that is Yahowah. The covenant family is now broadcasting this solution, this remedy to you, and it is absolutely essential. The questions in the opening credits of Yasha'yah 53 are intriguing for many reasons, one of which is there's nothing equivalent to them anywhere else in the prophets. And in this regard, there are only a couple of options regarding Shemuah and Aknu. Our message: this is either Yahowah bringing Yasha'yah into the conversation, telling us that they are in full agreement, or our is inclusive of father and son, God and Zerah, since this is about their role in our salvation as the Passover lamb. It is also possible that Anaknu addresses both prophet and every prophet. It begins, who has affirmed and established, providing a verifiable accounting of our message, and to whom have the Zerah, protective shepherd, sacrificial lamb, and sower of seeds, cultivating the harvest of Yahowah, been revealed and made openly known. As I have shared with you, and if you should disagree, please, by all means, share what you know that we are unaware of. But there's only one place ever been explained, which means what you're hearing now, what you can read if you read the translations and explanations of Yasha'yah 53 and in the Yahowah series, is the fulfillment of this prophecy. And when you think of how important this prophecy is, then you'll have an appreciation for what Yahowah inspired Yasha'yah to reveal to us. Now, this does not come out of the blue, because the first time ever that the magnificent prophecy of Yasha'yah 9 about a child who was born and a son who was given to us, the great Gabor, Dowd, the first time that has ever been correctly explained, is in the Yahowah series. The voice that appears in Yasha'yah 40 that's calling God's people home and tells them to build this raised thoroughfare back home to God. That voice is the one you're listening to. And of course, that brings us to Yasha'yah 53 with this powerful introduction of which has never occurred previously. He will raise and be lifted up, similar to the sucker, before his appearance, to prepare in advance of his arrival, much like the rootstock of the land after a long drought. Now, before we continue, you might say, well, that's pejorative. You're calling this dude a sucker. And you're saying that he's, similar to roots. That's the stuff in the muck under our feet. And this is after a long drought. What gives? Well, those who are familiar with the prophecy of the Towrah recognize that Towrah is a sucker. That's something that brings new life to a fallen stump or to an old rootstock. And in that Towrah prophecy, which is the entirety of Yasha'yah 11, God's saying that this Towrah is going to be a sucker that brings new life to the fallen stump that was Yisra'el. That is the rootstock from which Dod has come and entered our world. So what is being lifted up here in Yasha'yah 53 is the same thing that Isaiah spoke of regarding the sucker in the 11th chapter. So he will rise and be lifted up, similar to the sucker, before his appearance, to prepare in advance of his arrival. What did I share with you about Yasha'yah 40? The voice calling out to be prepared, to prepare Yisra'el for the arrival of their Mashiach and their God, Dod and Yahowah, speaks of the same individual. And you might say, well, why is God making such a big deal of this? Well, the answer is, if this was not happening, it would be the end of life as we know it. There would be no Shabuah harvest, no Teruah harvest, no Kippurim homecoming. 9 years from now, there would be no one there to greet Yahowah and Dod, and therefore no reason to come home. And the earth would be lost, as life would be extinguished. So there's a lot at stake. That's why God has so much to say about it. Much like the rootstock of the land after a long drought, and boy, has it been a long drought. Yisra'el, I'm not sure that there have been 20 Yehud that have recovered from the waters of Meribah.
Interesting. Yeah.
His approach will not be perceived as particularly pleasing because he will not provide a superficial outline or a shallow two-dimensional sketch, nor even a short poem. I added the last part, of course. He will not hold... Well, it's been a long night, Hadi. Slow on the uptake on that one. Yeah.
Yes, I was.
Listen, everyone knows that I'm verbose. If the same thing could be said in 20 words or in 2, I'm going to go for 20 every time. I love the words that Yahowah conveyed to us. I love his message. And every nuance of it, I want to share. So his approach will not be perceived as particularly pleasing because he will not provide a superficial outline, which is what people want in the tweet world. Or a shallow two-dimensional sketch. No, my sketch of Yahowah is 7-dimensional. He will not hold high office. God never works with those kind of individuals, but he made one exception only because he chose him as a young boy and he turned a shepherd into a great leader of men. But in no other case does he work with people who would have an office that would impress anyone. He will not hold high office. He will not be a nobleman. He is not a king, although he knows one quite well. He will not ascribe any value to the perceived status of others, nor will he be majestically attired. He wrote of the man that thinks he's really dressed up when he puts his flip-flops on and doesn't go around barefoot. Such that we would look to him. There is, I actually have a pair of long pants. I wore them once. I've forgotten where they are. But we dress casually here in the Caribbean. There is nothing readily apparent such that we would desire him, want him, or be pleased by him. Just don't tell my wife. She thinks I'm handsome.
She should.
This is an honest assessment of the role that I'm playing here. And it bothers me not that every title that is ascribed to this role that I'm playing on behalf of Yahowah, his Messiah and son, Dod, and his people, Yisra'el and Yehudim, is not flattering. I'm delighted to be called a secondary stem, a choder, a nakri, an observant foreigner, a kol, a voice, a bashar, a human herald. All of these things, just an ida, a witness. These are not flattering terms, and I'm delighted with them because the role is important, and they describe precisely what is being done. And God's not pretentious. If you need a pretentious title, you're pursuing the wrong deity. So if you want to fit in, be part of his family, work with him, alongside him, this is what we not only should expect, but desire. The prophet goes on to say, he will be scoffed at, ridiculed, dismissed, and discredited. I've already been dismissed and discredited by one listener in Yisra'el to the poem that I wrote. I understand that my poetry is a little rusty after all of these years, but they had the audacity to say, you shouldn't mention the name because you sound too Christian. Obviously, they didn't get the message of the song. Anyway, he'll be scoffed at and ridiculed, dismissed and discredited by a wide variety and considerable number of individuals who will try to stop him. I'll be done everything that can be done to me by political progressives to silence this voice. Everything that can be done by rabbis to besmirch my message. Everything that can be done by Christians to demonize what I have to say. And of course, I've already received thousands of death threats from Muslims. So I would say I qualify for the scoffed at and ridiculed, dismissed and discredited. And one of the things I came to realize is that being praised is a horrible thing. It makes you exceedingly vulnerable. And it is no fun being scoffed at and ridiculed. I've had my share of it. However, the best thing of all is to be ridiculed for doing the right thing. If you're getting underneath people's skin because you're speaking for Yahowah, if you're sharing God's message with his people, and if that is the reason that they're irritated by you because it's contrary to their politics and their religion, then that is something to be proud of.
Yep.
And I can assure you that we all wear this as a badge of honor. Even so,
absolutely,
Yada will come to know, understand, and acknowledge the implications of sorrow and suffering, of being plagued and afflicted by evil. And indeed, the name that I chose, thinking that I was being so clever, 23 years ago, to write anonymously was Yada. And I titled the series of books, Yahowah, to know Yahowah. Well, obviously this name was chosen by Yahowah at least 2,700 years ago, and likely much sooner than that. You see, God chooses certain people because they have either attributes or attitudes that he likes working with, and he works with those people over a very long period of time. So if you're one of those people, you just didn't start when you think you might have begun, like I did 23 years ago. Well, I don't recall independently. There are too many witnesses to the fact that it is likely that just as Yahowah brings his prophets forward in time and then back in time to convey his message to his people, he does the same thing with his witnesses. So Yada
Agreed.
has come to know. He has come to understand and acknowledge it. I would suspect that it could be reasonably ascertained that 33 books, averaging 600 to 700 pages a volume, would qualify for acknowledging what he has come to know. And
Yes.
I will also tell you that I have come to celebrate sorrow. Pain is something that I am familiar with. I have been humiliated. I have been hurt. I've been rejected. I know what it is to suffer. Even as I confessed to Dee and Leah as they were listening to me a couple of days ago, by the time that we are removed during the Shavuot harvest, less than 2 years from now, I will have given my full ounce of devotion. There'll be nothing left. Doing this 10, 12, 14 hours a day, 6 and 7 days a week for 23 years takes its toll. It's the most wonderful, joyful thing, productive thing I've ever done in my life. I love this job, but it isn't easy. It takes an enormous amount of devotion. And all along the way, what I have learned is that if it wasn't for failure, if it wasn't for the kinds of things like Dode experienced the disintegration of his family, Dode experienced the disintegration of his kingdom. Dode, for a while, even experienced the destruction of his relationship with Yahowah for doing some really dunderhead stuff. We grow through pain. We grow through overcoming our mistakes. That's how we build character. And so Yahowah didn't say that, you work with me and I'm going to make certain that every day is sunshine and rainbows. Because you wouldn't be able to relate to anyone. Do you think that Moshe had it easy when he had to flee Mitzrayim because he risked his life to protect a Hebrew man from being whipped to death, and goes into Arabia, a tough place to tend sheep, I'll tell you, and his first order of business is there's some girls who are being harassed by these raiders, and he's 80 years old and he stands up to them. I mean, we've all had our stripes. I can tell you, Moshe didn't want to go back. Not just he didn't want to go back to Mitzrayim because of the religion and politics and the caste system of the pharaohs, which he opposed, but because his people turned on him.
Right.
So we all have to grow through sorrow and suffering. It's how we come to understand the relationship that Yisra'el has with Yahowah and how God has suffered because of the embittered nature of his people. It's the only way we can communicate effectively. And of being plagued and afflicted by evil. As such, from him, the presence will be averted. But Yahowah is saying that the plague of evil, Choli, is something that will be averted from his witness, his final Zeroah, because while at one time in my life I was religious, if that was not averted, if I was not able to walk away from that, I wouldn't qualify to participate in the covenant, and Yahowah could not have approached me. This job cannot be done by someone who is religious. Then, speaking of his people collectively, Yasha'yah said, we will censor him. We're going to slander him as uninformed, as unimportant, as disreputable, as we scoff at and ridicule him, dismissing and discrediting him. You know, when you read things like this, you have fewer people that are envious and say, well, you know, maybe I want that job. No, you don't. No, you don't. I love it, but you don't want it. Because we will not properly assess his contribution by contemplating what he has composed. Now, that's not going to be all of Yisra'el, because this is changing, and it's changing rapidly. There will be a Shabuah and Towrah harvest. There will be a Kippurim homecoming. There's going to be a wonderful time to camp out with Yah, beginning Sukkah. To this point, what Yasha'yah has prophetically contributed has been accurate. This is where we are.
Mm-hmm.
It is not where we're going. And I even say that with a bit of trepidation, because even though there will be a Shabuah harvest of Goyim and Yehudim that please Yah, and a Towrah gleaning of Yisraelites and Yehudim, and a Kippurim homecoming, even though that's all true, it's going to be a tiny remnant people who are left on this planet. Surely, the malignant and malevolent pandemic of twisted perversions which plague and weaken us, he will lift from us, accept and carry away. The cause and consequence of our pain and suffering, he will incur and he will bear them. And yet, we assess his overall contribution poignantly inflicted, stricken by God, in addition to being humiliated for his testimony and abused for his response. Now, this is true really of the great Yisra'el and of his herald, the little Yisra'el. It is true that it was Dod as the Yisra'el who lifted our guilt and carried it off to Sheol to perfect us. He incurred and bore our pain. And it is his contribution, allowing himself to be inflicted and stricken, that made all the difference. But there isn't anyone who would say that is accusing Dod of being stricken by God.
Right.
But there are lots of people who read what I have written, like we did a show about 2 months ago of this woman who said, you know, they say you were demon-possessed and that you're a madman. That's being stricken by God. That is the impression where the religious will use the ad hominem argument to assail what I have written, because they can't the words themselves. Otherwise, they'd be debating against God, and that does not usually work out very well. So this speaks really of the melding of the purpose of both the great Yisra'el, Dod, and of his herald. As we continue into the prophecy now, we read something that applies only to the great Yisra'el, to the Passover Lamb, to the Son of God, to our Messiah and our Savior, Dod David. It said he will be pierced through for breaching our relationship through religious and political rebellion. Then he will be separated and crushed under tremendous pressure, all for our guilt, because we were wrong. So the punishment will be on him for our reconciliation. Therefore, by his scourging blows, we will be restored, healed, and repaired. Yasha'yah 53:5. In the rabbinical annual readings, they skip past Yasha'yah 53 because it is assumed that since Christians have claimed this on behalf of their counterfeit, that it doesn't pertain to Judaism, and they'll just skip past it. But it doesn't apply
Well, that's
to
a
the Christian.
twisted argument.
Yes, does not apply to the Christian counterfeit. This applies to Dowd. And by skipping over it, they're missing the greatest gift that has ever been provided. This is the gift of the Son who was given to us. Is the one whom every one of these words was written about. He specifically described them in this 22nd Mizmor. If you read the 22nd Mizmor in first person, Dowd wrote every bit of this. He explained that he would be crucified as the Passover lamb some 500 years before crucifixion was invented, and some 800 years before Rome even existed. How's that for a prophecy? And so he will be pierced through for us breaching our relationship through religious and political rebellion, which is why he served as the Pisakael. It is why his soul, his nephesh, was separated and crushed under the tremendous pressure of Sheol, which is the equivalent of a black hole, which is where his nephesh carried our guilt to deposit it there, never to be seen again, satisfying the benefit of the covenant, which is to perfect us. That is the purpose of unyeasted bread. And so the consequence, the chastisement, the rebuke, was laid upon him for our reconciliation. Thereby, by his scourging blows, we will be restored, healed, and repaired. This is the greatest gift ever offered. This is the greatest discovery ever made. This is the answer to life. It is Dowd, the Messiah, the Son of God, who did all of this on our behalf. That means there was no Jesus. That means that Rabbi Akiva made a horrific mistake in naming Bar Kokhba as a false Messiah. It is then this next statement that prompted me to hone my poetic skills after a long intermission. Collectively, we are like sheep in a flock, misled, deceived, like sheeple, with humankind turning to his own way. And so Yahowah will cause the guilt associated with having twisted and distorted the truth and the resulting consequence of us all to be associated with him. To which I wrote, I told you so. This is the synthesis of the Torah's promise to preclude salvation through the Mikra. The Zeroah was the implement. And that is why this message is presented within Yasha'yah 53 and why it is so enormously valuable, vital for us to understand. Therefore, I thought I might convey these thoughts in a song that is written from Yahowah's perspective. Yahowah sings a song to Yisra'el. Come home. I sing for my people because you have become so feeble. You could have flown like an eagle, but you have become like other sheeple. I chose you, but you have not chosen me. So now I plead, let my Towrah set you free. My bereth, it's the key. I do hope you agree. Please come back home to me. Yahowah, that is my name, and to Yisra'el I came, yet you denied my acclaim. You fled my flame. You erased my name, as if your favorite game. I am Yahowah, that is my name. There is none who shares my fame. To build a family, that's my aim. This and everything else is for your gain. I am Yahowah, and I am God. Do not be odd, neither should you applaud. Just drop the fraud. It's a nasty facade. Leave Babel unshod, no longer so flawed. I choose you, but you have not chosen me. So now I plead, let my Towrah set you free. My bereth, it's the key. And I hope you agree. Please come back home to me. It began in Eden. It led to Yisra'el, a home for Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob to dwell. A place for Sarah, for Rachel, and Leah to do well. And yet it is there that Ahab and Jezebel fell. I am the God of the prophets of Yasha'yah and Zechariah. I am the Elohim of Yoel and Yirmiah, the God of the Choter, with the chutzpah for Yada, as the coal of Yada. I am Yahowah. Your Messiah returns. He's been here before. Your guilt he bore. He opened the door. Of this and more I swore. So go explore, for it's told throughout his Mizmor. I choose you, but you have not chosen me. So now I plead, let my Towrah set you free. My bereth, it is the key. Now I hope you agree. Please, come back home to me. My son Dode, my beloved, is the chosen one. Your salvation he won. It's already done. For this, he will be bright as the sun. From this truth, do not run. I have always loved you. I only wish you knew. Yet you don't have a clue. Such nonsense you spew. It is why the harvest will be so few. You were unwilling to listen to my voice. You have always made the wrong choice. There has been nothing to rejoice, and it has led to a contentious divorce. Yes, I choose you, but you have not chosen me. So now I plead, let my Towrah set you free. My bereth, it is the key. Yes, I hope you agree. Please, come back home to me. There is so little time, and there's been so much slime. Step away from the grime. Leave the scene of this crime. For this my son laid it all on the line. There will be a harvest on Shabuah, a gleaning of Yisra'el occurring during Towrah. I'll be there on Kippurim to avoid the bitterness of Meribah. On Sukkah, greet me and your Messiah. There can be happily ever after. We can write a new chapter, walk away from the religious actor, and what happened before will not matter. I choose you. Now choose me. Let my Towrah set you free. My bereth is yours, should you agree. It's time you come back to me.
my people, why have you become so feeble? You could have flown like an eagle, instead you've become like other sheeple. I choose you, but you've not chosen me. So now I plead, let my Towrah set you free. My parents is the key. How I hope you'll agree. Please come back home to me. Oh, come back home to me. Oh, 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 oh. Yahowah is my name, and to Yisra'el I came, but you denied my acclaim. You fled my flame, erased my name like it's your favorite game. I am Yahowah, that is my name. There are none who share my fame. Building a family is my aim. All of this for your gain. I am Yahowah and I am God. Do not be awed, I don't want your applause. Just cross the fraud, the nasty facade. Leave Babel and Shaw, let me no longer so flawed. I choose you, but you've not chosen me. So now I plead, let my Towrah set you free. My parents is the key. How I hope you'll agree. Please come back home to me. Oh, come back home to me. Oh, come back home to me. Oh, 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 It began in Eden and led to Yisra'el, a home for Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov to dwell, for Sarah, Rachel, and Leah to do well. But there Ahab and Jezebel fell. I am the God of the prophets of Yasha'yah and Yahowah. I am the Elohim of Yahowah, and Yirmiyah, the God of the children with his chutzpah for Yahowah. At the call of Yada, I am Yahowah. Your Messiah returns, yes, he's been here before. Then your guilt he bore as he opened the door. On my name this I swore, foretold in my Towrah to explore, and throughout those more. I choose you, but you've not chosen me. So now I plead, let my Towrah set you free. My parents is the key. How I hope you'll agree. Please come back home to me. Oh, come back home to me. Come back home to me. Oh, 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 oh. My son is chosen, my beloved, the chosen one. Through him your salvation won. It has already been done. So he will shine bright as the sun. Don't turn from this truth. Do not run. I have always loved you. I only wish you knew. Still you don't have a clue. Foolish nonsense you spew. Now the harvest will be so few. I'm willing to listen to my voice. You've always made the wrong choice. There's been nothing to rejoice, leading to a contentious divorce. I choose you, but you've not chosen me. So now I plead, let my Towrah set you free. My parents is the key. How I hope you'll agree. Please come back home to me. Oh, come back home to me. Come back home to me. Oh, 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 oh. There is so little time, there's been so much life. Step away from the crime, leave the scene of this crime. For this, my son laid it all on the line. There will be a harvest on Shabat, a cleaning of Yisrael occurring during Towrah. I'll be there on Kippurim to avoid the bitterness of Meribah. What still could greet me and your Messiah? There can be happy ever after. We can write a new chapter, walk away from the religious actor, and what's happened before will not matter. chosen me. So now I plead, let my Towrah set you free. My merit is the key, how I hope you'll agree. Please come back home to me. Oh, come back home to me. Oh, come back home to me. Oh, 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 oh,
On this, the Moed Mikre of Kippurim, just 9 years before Yahowah and Dod, father and son, Messiah, and God return. To Yisra'el, are you listening? It's hard to even comprehend how it would be possible for the Creator God of the universe, Yahowah, to have chosen a people who over the past 3,500 years have almost universally rejected him, been antagonizing toward him, embittered, contentious. And yet Yahowah continues to love. It is the most vivid expression of unrequited love the universe has ever known. Why Yisra'el? He's God. He is offering you eternal life in the seventh dimension, empowering you, enriching you, liberating you, cherishing you, loving you. And yet you won't even say his name. You've made erasing his name your favorite game. Why? And after it obviously not working out for 3,500 years since the very beginning of the Exodus all the way to this day, why are you refusing to change? Why do you still cling to your customs and to your religion and to your embittered politics? Reconcile the relationship with you individually and collectively. Bring you back home. Return to Eden. That is the message that Yahowah wanted his people to hear this Kippurim, as we celebrate the day that Father and Son will return. Year 6000 Yah, just 9 years from now. It will be on October 2nd in 2033, 6:22 p.m., sunset in Jerusalem, when Yahowah will return with Dod, the Kipporeth mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant, will be anointed, the relationship will be restored, and all religion and politics will be expunged from the earth as every one of Yisrael's foes will vanish. Will you be there with us? Will you accept Yahowah's invitation? Will you do what Jews have not done for thousands of years and acknowledge Yahowah's name? Acknowledge that his son is Dod, and that it is Dod who is our King and our Messiah and our Shepherd and our Savior. Will you listen, Yisra'el? And with that, I bid you a good night. Kirk and Dee, you are more than welcome to stay and talk with the Covenant family. I do want to thank you for doing something that I have experienced but did not anticipate initially. And that is when I read the prophecy for the first time of the Towrah. And Yahowah stating that he was going to offer this secondary stem, this sucker growing from the fallen rootstock of Yisra'el, his seven spirits to enlighten him, to embolden him, to make him steadfast so that he could endure, so that he could teach Yisrael what God's people needed to know. I didn't know that there would be something equally wonderful at the time.
Yeah.
And that's a covenant family
Mm-hmm.
to work alongside. If it's all possible. Yisrael, you are in their debt. I hope you come to appreciate them, your Messiah, and your God. May Yahowah bless. Happy Shavuot, happy Towrah, happy Kippurim, and a delightful Sukkah to all. Good night.
Night.
Good night.